Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bet the Edge. Thanks for watching on our NBC Sports YouTube channel or listening in podcast version. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays if you haven't heard already. I'm here with the Well Capper. I'm V Money Sports. Don't know who's more festive today. I got the tree behind me at home. Drew's at the airport, which we know is American and Christmas holiday as it gets traveling around the holidays. So excited to talk NFL football with you, Drew. Let's start with Broncos-Bengals. I'm excited because I have a 250 to 1 ticket on the Bengals to win the Super Bowl. Probably rip it up here any minute, but they are laying 3 at home against the Bengals. Totals 49.5. What is your best bet and angle of attack in this matchup? Do or die for Cincinnati?
Well, first of all, congrats on grabbing 250 to 1. There's not that much drama this weekend, which is weird because there's still 2 weekends of football left. This is one of the few games where there are real deal stakes. And it feels like if the Broncos belly flop on the way in here, they could choke this playoff spot up to the Bengals. And honestly, this is all of a sudden a very juicy matchup between 2 teams that I'm excited to see how this shakes out, because it's strength on strength. Broncos are going to be at full strength here with their pass defense. It looks like Riley Moss is going to go. It has been very obvious to anyone who has watched Broncos football for the last month how much he has meant to this pass defense, because without him on the field, there are clear and obvious ways that you can attack that unit, particularly if you have a good wide receiver 2, a good, a true blue wide receiver 1 who can, drag Surtain around the field. So that's exactly what the Bengals have, and the fact that you're going to see that strength on strength is very exciting for this matchup. And then on the other side of the ball, this is kind of prove it time that Bo Nix, you're the real deal, because this is the softest defense you're going to get to play all year, buddy. And this Broncos defense looked amazing last week because they were playing the Browns and Dorian Thomas, DTR, not because they're figuring things out. Sam Hubbard not expected to go here, and really just the fact that I think the Broncos can set up a game plan where if they can generate a lead, they can play a little bit of keep away, have some pretty long sustained drives, and really milk this clock. To me, this sets up well for Broncos to cover at least at 3.5. Now, the 3.5s are evaporating. I would not play a 3 here. And I think ultimately, if you haven't gotten involved in this game, you probably should just look for an in-game opportunity. If the Broncos if they score early, I would expect, to me, that says play the under live. And if the Broncos are playing catch up here, then they're going to score. And this is basically a positive game state for the Bengals, to me, screams live over. A positive game state for the Broncos, to me, screams live under. So I think ultimately, if you don't already have Broncos 3.5 at a reasonable price in pocket, this is a pass. I agree the Bengals should be favored here. My fair price on this one is a hair under 3. But the total, I think, is really the way to play this one live, because this is a standalone game on a Saturday. We're all going to be watching this one every minute of it, particularly considering the stakes. So, I'm fired up for this one. But, the Bengals have a way in, Vaughn. I'm going to be cheering for you. Because one of these, there's, regardless of which of these 2 teams gets into the playoffs, there's going to be a fun bet to be made, I would say, in round 1, because either you're going to have a very live and frisky Joe Burrow, or you're going to have a Broncos Bo Nix team that he's going to be making his playoff debut. So there'll be a bet to be made on or against whichever of these teams comes through. But what's your angle?
Yeah, I'm super excited for this game too. The standalone, the Saturday slate. All these games are going to be great, but this is the one that I'm focusing the most. And if this was a 2.5 spread, I would love taking the Bengals here. But now that we're talking 3.5s, it seems more of a Denver spot. And we got to remember too, like even Arizona last week. A lot of people love the Arizona Cardinals against the Carolina Panthers because their season was on the line at home. But what happened? Carolina beat them. And in the fourth quarter, it looked like Arizona had the chance, but Carolina made all the right plays. And the Denver Broncos defense, they definitely have a defense that could do the same thing, make all the right plays here. And I look at the 49.5. I think the over looks like a game state, as you said, Drew, could be where both teams could mismatch or could match each other, continue to score on each other. And if Joe Burrow and this team scores early, that's what it will be. So I am looking for more live game opportunities than pregame opportunities, because all the best of the numbers are pretty much disappearing. Even as we speak, the 3.5s are juiced to 120, 125. Those will be gone. So, as much as I'm pulling for the Bengals here, I think the sharp in me is thinking the Denver Broncos plus the points. is probably the wise bet, given the fact the Bengals defense is what it is, and they are not facing DTR. I picked up the Bengals defense in fantasy last week. I knew the risk.
Oh, nice play.
I was trying to make a championship run, baby. You got to take risks and get rewards, but I'm not taking the Bengals defense this week in fantasy. That's how I'll put it. So
yeah. It's worth mentioning. Yeah, no Rankins, no Hubbard, as far as I can glean. Joseph Asai also missing practice with illness. That's 3 important pieces to that D line. Really not sure how they're going to stop the run in this contest, which is again why I think if there's success early for the Broncos, this turns into a game state where it's a live under, because you could have literally 8-minute drives here for Broncos where, they tend to slow down in the red zone, but, they milk the clock in between the 20s. So Jordan Battle probably goes here, but there's a lot of missing pieces here for this defense. My read on the Bengals offense is that Joe Burrow's injury is not a big deal. T. Higgins' injury is not a big deal. Orlando Brown probably back. Amarius Mims, I think, will go. So I think you're going to have a full strength offense here for the Bengals, which is why I'm not super inclined to bet Broncos +3 at the prices we're seeing. 3.5 was really the play. So
yeah, there's going to be much better numbers in game here there, but we're definitely both sounds like we're leaning Broncos 3.5 if it's there, but at the same time,
I got one quick question for you on this one before we move on. Do you think that it is a foregone conclusion that Joe Burrow is going to win Comeback Player of the Year?
Yes. I bet it myself, and I thought it was definitely going to be one of the top 3 finishers this season. But I mean, if they would have turned the tide in those 1-score games this year and had a winning record, he's in this MVP conversation as well. So, I mean, everything he's done has been so impressive, man. I mean, we've seen terrific quarterback play from Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow this season. Like, those 3 in particular have been amazing. So, yeah, I think he's locked up for Comeback Player of the Year. I mean, I'm -550 MGM. It seems like that. Would you think anybody has a chance to take this over, or is he locked up?
I just am not sure that it's that sure of a thing, but I also don't know who the guy who, like, if not him, who, right?
Yeah,
like, it's kind of, it feels like, and actually, like, Defensive Player of the Year is kind of that way. Defensive Rookie of the Year might be that way. Like, it's kind of weird mess across the awards right now. I don't feel like these are sure things, but the market seems to think so. But the problem is, I don't know who the runner is to try to cash in with a big number.
I mean, even if you follow across social media, it seems like a lot of people are saying Lamar Jackson's your MVP, not Josh Allen. But the betting market's telling you one thing and the public's saying the other. But I think in the Comeback Play of the Year market, Sam Darnold being probably the biggest competitor to Joe Burrow. Our producer Dan notes he's +400 in this market. So I think him getting the 1 seed, Sam Darnold, which is the game we'll be talking about next, if they're able to make a run at that 1 seed, maybe that's his path to winning Comeback Player of the Year, and that's your guy, Drew.
Yeah, I would just say that I've been thinking about that too, because of course the way that this broke the last 2 years was a quarterback retread story. Geno Smith and then Joe Flacco were just like a surprise. My career wasn't over like you thought it was, and they, the AP has specifically tried to force the voting block to recognize that they want this to be a story about a comeback from an injury, which Sam Darnold didn't overcome. So, like, it kind of is fascinating to me if this turns into a, voters want to tell a certain story and they just do it anyway. There's nothing the AP can do to specifically take him off ballots, I don't think. So, I don't know. It's a fascinating one because it's a little bit of a muddy award where the definition was always kind of left up to the mind of the writer and the voter, and now they're really trying to force it into you came back from an injury. But then at the same time, Joe Burrow was a top 5 expected MVP this year coming into the season. So are we really surprised he's going to triple crown? Not really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a funny mess.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I can't wait to hear, some of the voters' picks because, we always get some offensive linemen coming back, get Comeback Player of the Year votes and these type of things too. So, but I think Joe Burrow's got it all but locked up at -550. And hopefully the Bengals can take us to the playoffs. But it sounds like the Broncos +3.5 is probably the smart bet, honestly. We are feeling the holiday vibes here, but the holidays just got merrier with Premier League festive fixtures on NBC, USA, and streaming on Peacock. Today through January 6th, we're bringing you the greatest gifts, magical moments, and holiday cheer. don't miss a moment of the drama and excitement from the best players in the world. And while all that's going on, we get closer and closer and closer to the playoffs. The Packers and the Vikings is probably the biggest game on the Sunday slate. Sunday, 4:25 Eastern. We have so far the Packers laying 1 point, but it's basically a pick 'em on the money line, Drew. Game in Minnesota between these two teams fighting not only for the division crown, but the number 1 seed. Do you have a way you're leaning, whether it's the spread or total?
Yes. So, my process is pretty quantitative, right?
Yes.
I try to come up with a fair price and, it's try to stick to my numbers and not really stick my neck out with kind of narrative stuff. This market in this game is a no-brainer correct price, in my opinion. Like, we know everything there is to know about these teams. There's not a lot of moving pieces. There's not a lot of injuries that are going to swing this thing one way or the other. If you really want to talk injuries, Vikings a little bit healthier coming into this one. It looks like Pace Jr. is going to be back. He's a very important piece to them, to Brian Flores' scheme. It looks like the Packers, I think ultimately Watson goes, but their injuries are mostly on the defensive side of the ball, where we may not see Quay Walker. We're probably not going to see Evan Williams. We may not see Javon Bullard. So, a little bit of Packers defensive question marks here health-wise, and looks like the Vikings defense is getting healthy at the right time. Putting all that aside, this is obviously the correct price. And so if you're betting this game, you're pretty much flipping a coin, in my opinion. And if you are going to flip a coin and ask me to call heads or tails here, I'm calling Packers. It's not a very strong opinion. It's just a matter of this Packers team does feel like they're peaking at the right time offensively. And just in general, sort of the situation here, to me at least, leans Packers. The Packers have had pretty light lifts now 2 weeks in a row, particularly last week where they didn't really have to do anything. That game on Monday was just a joke in terms of the varsity versus the junior varsity. And so for those reasons, they're fresh, even though they're on short rest. The Vikings, on the other hand, I thought played a very physical and very hard fought game against an at the death Seattle team. And the Vikings may be wearing a little bit more fatigue in this matchup than Green Bay. And Green Bay in general, the way that offense is structured right now, it is such a explosive passing offense, and Jordan Love is playing at an extremely high level. And I would think that if the offensive line for the Packers stands up and does a good job in a hostile environment, Minnesota's home crowd does a phenomenal job of creating an advantage for them. But if the Packers O-line stands up and if in general Jordan Love can handle the blitz that Brian Flores likes to throw at you, then they're going to hit some home runs in this one. And a game state where the Packers are ahead and they can lean on Josh Jacobs, or just in general lean on the bevy of very talented running backs that they have on this roster. There's just so many good, talented young players across this entire offense, and they all seem to be peaking at the right time. And for those reasons, I don't think Packers -1 is by any means like a slam dunk run to the window. You can't miss this bet of the year type of thing at all. This is a fair price, but I have a sneaking suspicion the Packers will be victorious. And I think the real the real angle that will do is I think that opens up the coach of the year race, because Kevin O'Connell's his favoritism right now to me feels super fragile, and a loss to the Packers in this, it's not a standalone game, but it's sort of the only game that matters in this time window. A lot of eyeballs going to be on this game, and a lot is going to be written about the way that this shapes up the NFC playoff picture. So KOC, if he loses, which is a little bit better than a 50-50 chance, he's in trouble. Yeah,
and I mean the Vikings control their own destiny right now. They have the Packers obviously, but at the Lions next week. So this is for the division, in the NFC, in the number 1 seed for Minnesota. So Green Bay could still play spoiler here. And something too, Drew, that I like to look at too, and I know you do, is the scheduling leading up to this game. And when I look at it, it's kind of interesting because Minnesota had 3 straight home games that went to Seattle and then come back home against Green Bay in this big spot here. And for Green Bay, they were at Detroit, at Seattle, came back home against New Orleans in that blowout game. That did remind me of some high school football, to be honest with you. So it's, it's a situation where Green Bay has been peaking, like you said. They are 5-1 since the bye week, playing great football. Minnesota on this stretch, hasn't lost since week 8. It's coming time now for Minnesota. It's either this week or next week. So, I think both teams, though, have quarterbacks and offenses capable of, whether they're down 7 to 14 points, they can mount a comeback at any given time. So with that being said, the live betting value here, like getting a team here at 3.5 or 4.5, any of these numbers, I think is so much better than playing pre-flop in this game. So my main
that's well said.
Yeah, I mean, it's just these offenses are too good. But
in the blind, would you bet the whoever's losing at halftime? Would you bet them to come back?
Yeah, this is a college basketball type thing. Like, your team's down by 12 at halftime, you bet them to come back and win this game. Okay. So I think there's great value here. But if you ask me to pick a side pre-flop, I would take the Packers as well because they have looked like the better team. They didn't have to use all their ammo last week against New Orleans, so that obviously helps in this race. And Minnesota gets caught in probably a look-at spot with Detroit on the schedule, where Green Bay just is back at home against Chicago, and Chicago's done for. So, yeah, I think the Packers in a much better situation. And long-term NFC future-wise, I like the Packers too over the Vikings. Any last notes here, Drew, that you'd like to hit on before we move on?
No, I think you covered it well. I think between the two, I would rather have a Packers comeback type of a situation in the second half than be counting on Sam Darnold, just because he is like I'm still waiting for his blow-up game where he has 3 or 4 turnovers, because he has turnover-worthy plays every week. They're just not turning into turnovers. And this Green Bay defense, if there's one thing you really want to say positive about them, they're ball hawks.
I forgot to mention, actually, I placed this bet this morning because I was trying to find another angle of attack for us to talk about, but there was one incorrect market price. BetMGM has this at 22 to 1. FanDuel and some other markets have this around 50 to 1. So I took a snag at it, but these are the top 3 first quarter scoring teams, Drew, number 1 and 3 in the NFL this year. So if there is a fast start in a dome, the first quarter over 9.5 obviously is a look. It's juiced to the over. Both teams' score was plus 110, which I did like. But the prop that I found that was mispriced was both teams to score 10 plus points. Doesn't happen very often in the NFL, but with two teams with a lot of home run hitters and offensive potential, as we said, that could happen. And that was 50 to 1 at FanDuel compared to 22 to 1 at BetMGM and lower prices. So $10 wins 500. I played that. I thought that was a fun way to attack this game too, in case we see a turnover early or something.
I fully endorse that, not just because of the price, but the scripted offense for Minnesota has been superlative, and they're getting it done. And you know why else that's a great bet is if the Green Bay offense is having success, it's going to be chunks. You're going to get 50, 60-yard passing type of plays. It's not going to be dink and dunk, matriculate. Half the quarter's gone by the time you get the second possession. So that's a really, really fun one. And man, now I really have something to look for in this one.
Let's go. Yeah, I'm still trying to make up for my Christmas Day miracle parlay. Hit Russell Wilson touchdown, Lamar Jackson touchdown. The Kristaps Porzingis gets injured in the second quarter, and I said, well, it was a miracle parlay, so can't count on that. But it's okay. We'll get it back here, hopefully, with the first quarter. Both teams scored 10 plus. But it is also a critical matchup in the nation's capital with NFC playoff implications on Sunday Night Football. You can catch the Falcons as they travel north to face Jayden Daniels and the Commanders. Coverage of that matchup begins at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico, First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Back to Sunday Night Football here. Falcons at Commanders. Drew, I'm excited for this one. Washington's laying 4 points. Jayden Daniels running away with Rookie of the Year award. Totals at 47.5. Michael Penix looked great last week, and I'm not going to hold it against him, Drew. His only blemish, his only blunder in his debut was throwing an interception on the goal line for half, but it wasn't his fault. Kyle Pitts still struggles to catch footballs, even though he's been doing it for this long. So he did ruin my bet last week, but I like what I'm looking at in this game. What do you have an opinion here on the side or total? Washington getting 84% of the spread money so far.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we've seen this drift towards the Commanders, and I agree. My fair price on this one is 4.5. I haven't made a bet on this game, but I have a lot of Dan Quinn Coach of the Year, and I still think that's probably the angle here because, I mean, you're one of Kevin O'Connell and Dan Campbell is losing week 18. As we just talked about, I think there's a possibility Kevin O'Connell loses this week, and I think there are 2 realistic chances here to knock out Dan Campbell with losses to either San Francisco on Monday or the Vikings in week 18. So there is a chance here that the Commanders coast into a playoff spot with a really high-profile win against a rookie quarterback making his first road start of his career. And I think that sets up well for the Commanders defense to look good, to get a little bit of credit. You mentioned Kyle Pitts. He is dealing with injuries. He was, he's, I guess not injuries, but just, kind of poor performance. And who knows whether they even call his number. Drake London was estimated as limited with the knee injury. I kind of will be surprised if Drake London goes. That looked like a more serious injury to me than they were letting on. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the Falcons are really not to be trusted. They got 2 touchdowns last week from the defense. So it makes the numbers look better. But ultimately you can move the ball on this team. And I think Jayden Daniels is going to have a nice day. So for me, this is Commanders or pass. And I like a more like a high, a higher payout type of angle just to get a little Dan Quinn Coach of the Year exposure, hoping that the Commanders win. And if they do it in style, that just helps his case even more.
Yeah, especially on primetime too. I mean, that helps too. But I need another angle of attack in the Coach of the Year market, so I'm going to tell you on that. I had Mike Tomlin being a little bit of a homer, but the last 3 weeks I fully expected this slide to happen as a Steelers fan. So, I think that it is definitely open for a few coaches to take advantage. Quinn probably one of them. For me, like I said, Penix looked great last week, but the game script was amazing for him. The defense set him up to have all that success. Bijan Robinson had a great game on the ground. I even live bet him over 89.5 rushing yards, which came through. Everything worked out for Penix to look successful last week. Now you make your first road start, and it's on prime time against a team like the Commanders who have nothing but success this year, and it's tough defensively. So I love the Commanders in this spot. My favorite way to attack this game is I'm going to save it for our best bets, but I think the team total, Drew, 22.5 for the Falcons, too high. I don't think they get there. I think getting 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns can be a struggle in this game for Penix and company. And if Drake London doesn't play, this number is dropping to 19.5, 18.5. So I like the Falcons team total under here a lot. The Commanders defense, nothing to scoff at. And honestly, Washington -4 could be quite the deal. Your line probably should be 6.5, in my opinion, Drew.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're even hotter on this one than me. Okay, well, I'm excited to hear what your best bet is, but I like your angle. This is so it's outdoors. It's nighttime. Raul John has been fired up for this Commanders resurgence. This is, and a lot of what we've seen. Really, the Falcons are a lot of their talent. It's a finesse team. Like they're built to be indoors on a fast track, not outdoors in the month of December and on a gnarly field. So, this is a solid look on that team total under.
And there's the aspect too of just having your season in decline, and then you thinking your rookie quarterback's going to save you, who you didn't want. That you didn't trust all along the season. So it's a situation where I'm like, the cards are going to fall and not in your favor here. But as far as my best bet, it is in this game, best bet for the weekend. Right now, BetMGM is hanging the Falcons first quarter team total at 3.5. Now it's juiced, Drew, like -160, -185 everywhere. I don't want that. I want the under 2.5 because the Falcons aren't scoring in DC in the first quarter. So I want the plus money play when that becomes available everywhere. But if it doesn't become available for whatever reason, then just take the Commanders first quarter on the money line. I think that they at least get out to a 3-0 lead or better in this game. I like the scripts for Washington. And honestly, whether Jayden Daniels using his arms or his legs, Terry McLaurin has been, oh my God, one of the best receivers that I have in fantasy this year, but also one of the best touchdown bets. This guy's been amazing. So I like the Commanders' offense overall, Drew, and I like the fact that this is Penix's first true road game. He's out on prime time at night. Not a good situation for him. So, yeah, I can't get enough of the Commanders or the Falcons' first quarter under.
Okay, fun one, man. My best bet, I'm going to go to basically what I think is the most curious price on the board. The Dolphins are only 6.5-point favorites against this Browns team. The Browns injury report is an absolute mash unit at this point. Everybody's hurt. Both DTR and Jameis Winston are dealing with injuries. I'm assuming that this is just a DTR, one more opportunity to see what they got there. The fact that he's missing practice this week with the calf injury does not help with any type of progression that you're going to see any better quarterback play. This offense is just fundamentally broken, and they're up against the Dolphins defense that's playing pretty well right now. So I don't think that there's really much in terms of hope of the Browns scoring points here. And while Tua was limited and Hill and Waddle are both a little bit banged up right now, I still think that the Devon A-Chain show is going to be very tough for the Browns to defend. And I think that in general, Miami, who still is alive, they're going to put some serious scoreboard pressure on an offense that can't do anything. And, oh, by the way, is there a mandate to lose in Cleveland for draft status? Maybe, probably, there should be. And so you got a little bit of that in your back pocket as well. So let's get at least a touchdown margin of victory for the Miami Dolphins in a game that I think means a lot more to them and should be closer to 7.5 by my numbers.
Yeah, my faded Dolphins last week took the Niners, took A-Chain's rushing and receiving total under, and never again, Drew. I knew A-Chain was great. I mean, he's looked good all year, but, I mean, he can truly do it all, even against the best. Fred Warner was having trouble guarding this guy one-on-one. That's truly saying something. So, yeah, even if you have not 100% Waddle or a Hill, you definitely got enough still to take care of the Cleveland Browns, who is in a cluster of teams fighting for a top 5 pick in the NFL this year. So, I like the best bets. Dolphins cover the spread at 6.5, and I like the Falcons' first quarter team total under 2.5, or the Commanders' first quarter money line, whatever you choose. Make sure you guys go back and check out previous episodes, though, so you get the rest of the handicaps for the games this week. Also, a college football playoff show as well. But for the Well Capper and V-Money Sports, for producer Dan, we thank you guys as always. Hope you have a happy holidays. Merry Christmas. If you're traveling like Drew, get home safe. If you're at home like me, enjoy your time with the family. We'll see you guys later.